So in this video, I'm going to talk about what the soul view of personal identity might be. So what is a soul? Well, a soul would be something that's immaterial. It would be not perceivable with the five senses. It's immaterial, so light doesn't bounce off it. It's immaterial, so mass moves through it. It's immaterial, so it doesn't give off chemicals. It's immaterial, so it doesn't, make changes in air pressure. And so it doesn't have any of the sort of physical effects that would allow us to perceive it. So it's not perceivable with any of our five senses. It, however, is what perceives and thinks and so on. And you might think a soul is immortal. So you might think, oh, a soul can survive bodily death. And you might think, oh, what happens after that? Well, eventually, if you're a Christian, you think there's a last judgment. And then you get sent to heaven or hell, at least on certain forms of Christianity. And you find something similar views in Islam. Or you might think, no, you get reincarnated, and you might find such a view in, for example, certain forms of Hinduism. So the soul view of personal identity then says this: what makes infant me and present me the same person is that we have the same soul. And what makes infant me distinct from the previous teacher of 101 online at El Camino distinct? Why are they different beings? Because they have different souls. And what makes present me and that previous teacher distinct? Because again, they have different, I and that person have different souls. So the general theory of the soul view of personal identity just says this: when we say that X is the same person as Y, and more generally the same person as Y, what we mean is that X and Y have the same soul. So there's this immaterial, imperceivable being that is what perceives and thinks and acts, and is attached to my body now, and was attached to my body way back when. And it's because that one being, that being is really what I am, and so those were both, this body and that body are both have been and continue to be my body because my soul is attached to them. And then there's the teacher of the other course, and that's a different person because that's a different soul, right? So there's my soul and that person's soul. In fact, there's a soul that I am and the soul that they are, and they're different souls, and so different people. Okay. So there are different objections one might have. So the soul view is pretty straightforward, except in terms of basically stating it. Now one might wonder, well, what about these souls? And that's what we're going to actually spend the rest of this unit on, is saying, well, does this soul view really help us to understand personal identity? And I'm going to suggest that maybe it doesn't. So there are two different objections, at least, that you might have to the soul view. One would be to say there are no souls. The other would be to say whether or not they're souls, and whether or not we have them, we aren't them. We aren't the same things as souls. And that's the view, that's the objection that I'm going to be developing in this video and the next video. So let's just look at this scenario again without worrying about souls and note something. Not only are these the facts, but we can know these are the facts. So I can know it's the same person who was a baby and is now me and is not the previous 101 teacher, right? So I can know these different facts about numerical identity and numerical distinctness. So it's not just that they are facts, but that I can know them. And the problem for the soul view is going to have to do with facts about knowledge of personal identity. So I know that I existed yesterday and the day before that and the day before that and so on. And I know that there are various things I have memories of, and I know it was me that those things happened to. And I also know that I will exist tomorrow, or at least, well, yeah, I know I'll at least tomorrow. And similarly, I have friends, right? So I have, let's say, a friend Sandra, and I saw her yesterday, and she lasts through time, and she still exists today. And not only does she existed yesterday, and she exists today, but I can know that it's Sandra again, and if Sandra is your friend, you can know that it's her again as well. You can encounter her on multiple occasions, and you can tell, oh, same person, right? Same person. So we can know about people's identities. We can have, so you meet your friend, and you know it's the same person as you saw yesterday. We know that person then is numerically the same person as me now, or that person then is numerically the same as this person now. Okay, so we know personal identities over time, both our own and others. You encounter a person once, you encounter them again, and you can know it's the same person. We're going to call that reidentification. Reidentification is when you know you encountered a thing at a different time, and when you you re-encounter it, you know it's the same thing over again. We don't always do that, right? We can re-encounter things on multiple times without knowing that they're the same thing. We don't always recognize that, or we might wonder and not know, or we might know. So the objection to the soul view, in a way, is going to be very simple. On the one hand, we're going to say, can we re-identify people? We sure can. But can we re-identify souls? Actually, we can't. And if those two are both true, then it's also the case that people aren't souls, and identity over time, therefore, isn't having the same soul. That's a valid argument, right? We say people have a certain way, they can be re-identified. Souls are a certain way, they can't be re-identified. Then they're not the same thing. If souls and people were the same, then we'd be able to, if we could re-identify one, we could re-identify the other. But if we can re-identify one but not the other, then they're different. They're not the same thing. So this is a valid argument, but we might wonder, is it sound? Well, certainly that premise, we can re-identify people, that's almost certainly true. If anything is true, that is. If we know anything, we know that. But what about this? We can't re-identify souls? Well, that's not at all obvious. Why would that be true? So what we're going to look at in the final video in this unit is, can we re-identify souls? That's what we'll be talking about.